Bien. Bueno, y vamos a empezar. ¿Cómo están todos? ¿Cómo están? ¿Bien?
Bien, gracias.
Bien. Bueno, excelente. Me alegro. I'm very happy to hear that. Today we have up for discussion. Oh, we're going to hang into or turn into the little bit of a hangnail of the lesson we had on that little suffix ista. We're going to start off with that because that's a short topic. Just something easy to lead in with because it doesn't require a lot of practice just to know that word is out there and what that's about. And then we'll take any questions you had on the two videos from the week and hopefully dig into some more practice on el pasado, el uso del pasado, past tense use. Okay, things that we can use from el pasado. Fantástico. Vamos a empezar con ista. Ista. Let's take a quick look. Ista es... Pueden ver, ¿sí? Pueden ver. Can you see the screen? ¿Pueden ver la pantalla? ¿Sí? Bien. Magnífico. Okay. Ista is a familiar yet odd little suffix, a little tag end that we stick onto the ends of some words. And the first way that you learn about using the little suffix ista is when you're a beginning Spanish student with words like dentista, artista, pianista, violinista. Yeah. It can be a profession kind of word. It can be, I guess you could say, a hobby kind of a word, although artista and pianista can be a profession, if it's done not as something that you do just for fun. It can be done for a living. But ista tells that there's a person who does that thing. We've connected the main part of the word to. Yeah? Dentista, they work with teeth. Yeah. Pianista, they play that instrument. But there is another use for ista as a suffix. And that is, well, a description. Nothing more than that. So one of the words they used in the video from a couple of weeks back now actually was perfeccionista, perfectionist, which I guess can be a noun as well, but ista also has a job besides talking about something somebody does for a living as a description. But ista always stays in the form of ista with an a sound at the end. Okay, so unlike most other noun or adjective-like words that end in an a or an o, it does not flip-flop into a masculine form. We cannot take ista as a suffix and swap out the a at the end of it for an o. We can't do that. So you will never hear the word perfeccionista as perfeccionisto. Okay? If you're describing a male who is a perfectionist, it will still be the word perfeccionista. It doesn't feel like, well, that sounds like a feminine-like word, but ista is one of the oddball suffixes that always stays exactly only that way. Okay. Could be plural, I guess, but, not. So you get words like, optimista, optimist. Lo opuesto, pesimista, pessimist. Sí, bien. We had a question about other professions, suffixes. Those are the ones. We'll take that out for now. Idealista, idealist, right? Capitalista, capitalist. See? Izquierdista, someone who is leftist. And lo opuesto, derechista, a right-leaning person, okay? And here is a very, very fun word. Egoísta. ¿Qué quiere decir egoísta? It looks like you can probably guess. ¿Qué quiere decir egoísta?
Egotist.
An egoist, you could say, and somebody who has a huge ego only thinks about
Himself.
So an egoísta is someone who is self-centered, selfish. When they talk about somebody being egoísta, that means they are self-centered and they are only concerned about themselves. They are selfish. Es muy egoísta is never a compliment, unless you're maybe talking about a 2-year-old who just can't help it. And yeah, we all know a few of those. So ista is a good tag end, because that's what suffixes are, a tag end to a word. But remember that it does not change out of that a ending ever. Okay? Para que sepan, just so you know. Okay, a ver, bien. Bueno, adelante. Adelante, adelante. We had the fun kind of era versus fue video, yeah, which was instructional, but more instructional with lots and lots of examples of when it makes sense. Okay. And we've been working a lot on using proper verb forms to talk about things that are over, to talk about the past. But that's really, really hard for English speakers because that split between using imperfecto and preterito but having to interweave them, yeah, because it's what we have to do to tell about something in the past in Spanish. It's very, very tough for English speakers. We don't have any kind of structures that are really super similar. The closest we have to it really is that idea of used to or was doing something, being akin to imperfecto. But, for us, the past is just kind of the past. So what I want to ask first was, if we look only at the verb ser in the past, right? Ser is where we get those two forms of era, which you see on the screen, imperfecto, or fue, preterito, okay? That is one of the hardest verbs, ser, to get in the right past tense form, okay? Did you have any questions about this fue versus era thing? Okay. Juanita, sí.
Well, I don't have it tacked in my head yet. That's one thing.
Okay, that's all right.
But, okay, looking at that sentence, la fiesta era buena, it could mean the party used to be good or was good. I mean, depending on how they say it and the context, she could say, oh, la fiesta era buena. The party used to be good.
Yeah. Okay, so
happened. You know what I mean? I mean, it's
so she posed this as which one is right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it could mean two different things how it's said.
The
right?
context in which those would be used would be somewhat different. Okay. Mm-hmm. And ser is kind of a bugaboo. It's a tough one. Sometimes really both fue and era are correct, but you're injecting kind of a different twist depending on which one you choose in a lot of ways. And I'll go on after I ask Esteban to put in his 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. Marilyn, I think that it either or could be used. If you say era, then you're describing, at least in my mind, I could be totally out of it. You're describing the party. It was good, but based on the video, it's an event. So fue would be, it's a past event. It's over with. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's where fue works particularly well. You go to you see your neighbor, and they're asking you how your evening went, and they say, hey, I saw there were a bunch of people at your house, you guys had a party. Sí, sí, la fiesta fue buena, the party was good. Okay, because you're talking about it to him. He saw the people coming and going. You know it's over. It's the next day, and you're just making fue indicates you're just making a straight, simple comment on how to go, because it was an event. It was an event. Okay. So, what are events? Well, events are parties, graduations, weddings, meetings. Yeah. Town hall gets together to have a discussion. It's an event. Yeah. Events are things that happen. Yeah. But I generally will, so we can use fue to signal this event is done and over with. And not that you're going to make a great big descriptive comment, just, yep, it was good. Fue. Because it's direct and it's cut and dry and it's done. But if you launch into a description, you will likely flip into imperfecto. Okay? So both fue or era could be correct, but with an event, it's more likely if you're just doing a quick comment to the neighbor or the guys at the water cooler at the office, and just saying it went well, it's going to be preterito, as long as you're not launching into a great big description. Okay. Bien. Now, and before I get to you, Kathy, I'm going to say this. When we describe human beings or actual objects, then these don't happen. They don't happen. They're things. Or often when we describe people, it'll be a past description, and therefore it'll be imperfecto. Now, again, you can put a spin on it. If I want to talk about Lincoln, and I want to talk about Lincoln between 1860 and 1865, and I really mean I'm not describing the kind of human being he was and what kind of lawyer he was with his clients. I'm just talking about what he did in that time period. Yeah. Then I could flip out into preterito mode. So the speaker, when they choose one or the other, is signaling to you which mode he's in. Flat out, this is the way it was, or description. I'm going to paint you a picture. Bien? That make a little more sense? See? Kathy, was it?
I just want to comment. If they were having a good time at the party, it would be, and then until the lights went out, then could you say era buena until this happened?
Yeah, okay, so I could say this. Let's say I'm talking with that same neighbor over the fence, and yeah, ¿cómo fue la fiesta? ¿Cómo fue la fiesta? Sí, la fiesta fue muy buena. Era Era una fiesta muy grande. Wow, it was a big party. And now I'm telling him more about it. Era una reunión con todos mis viejas o mis viejos colegas, sí, de la oficina y de la universidad y todos mis amigos. No había parientes en la fiesta. There were no relatives at the party. So now if I'm going more into descriptive mode, I might flip into imperfecto, but I'll choose to use that verb as a signal
Okay,
to do
I
that.
understand better now.
Okay. Bien. So here's the key takeaway. When you start to talk about, what somebody used to be like or how somebody felt, feelings in the past are always going to be imperfecto. Unless, see, here's always the caveat. Something estaba anoche estaba muy cansada. Last night I was really tired. Trabajé todo el día. Hice ejercicio cuando anduve en bicicleta 15 millas. Wow. Estaba muy cansada al fin del día. Estaba muy cansada. Okay. I was very tired. But I might take that verb cansar and turn it into me cansó andar en bicicleta por 15 millas. Wow. It tired me out. Now that's it, changing it to an event. Me cansó. It tired me out. Me cansó andar en bicicleta por 15 millas. Wow, it wiped me out to go 15 miles on the bike. Okay. But describing how I felt is estaba imperfecto. See? An event maybe wore me out, but how I feel now when I go into feelings mode, imperfecto, estaba cansada. Okay? So the reason, and this really illustrates why it is uncomfortable for us. Doesn't it feel like the goalposts are moving all the time?
Yeah. Yeah, there's these subtle meanings that
I thought.
Yeah, like, wait, no, used to be, but was, but maybe not. Yeah, right.
And so for you as the listener, a good thing to do is to pay attention to the type of past tense a speaker chooses, the mode they choose to go into. And you're going to be, I am watching the video of everything that's a description or just the facts, boom, 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 boom of preterito. And people, so notice when you listen to stories of how people switch modes, they are sending sometimes great, big, obvious red flag, messages, sometimes very subtle messages. Yeah, okay. And notice that. Now, what you always want is to be able to do that yourself. But until you hear a true blank load of examples, until you hear enough examples, it may not feel natural. And you may feel natural using it, actually saying it yourself on a continuum. You may feel on a continuum of 1 to 10, like I'm only about 5 or 6 out of 10 comfortable. And to be honest with you, 5 or 6 out of 10 is not too bad. Okay. If you're at a, you probably want to be at an 8 or a 9, comfortable, but it may take listening to a number of stories or reading a bunch more, because it's the examples that make it stick with you. Okay. Even though I know I'm making you kind of give some examples tonight, but you got to start somewhere, right? Hay que empezar en el primer paso, in the first step. So, okay. Any other examples of just that one verb ser, or the fue and the era? Federico, sí.
So I've got a question here. If I was to use fue and it should have referred, or it was referring to, let's say, an event or a period of time or something, and that was not actually included in my sentence, can I expect the listener to reverse engineer it?
Yes, you can.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes. That's kind of the beauty of it. Yeah. That's kind of the beauty of it, because when you're choosing one or the other, you're sending a message. Exactly. Yeah. And they're going to interpret it according to that done and over with, or just a description of what was going on. It's kind of like I had somebody this morning. I'm going to put this on screen share so you can see what I'm talking about. Somebody gave an example in one of my morning classes, and they wanted to talk about driving in a monsoon storm. Normal. Okay. And they said, I'm going to take manejar and use manejar. See? And what they meant to say was, manejé lentamente. ¿Sí? Manejé lentamente durante la tormenta. I drove slowly during the storm. Normal. This is a normal thing to say to somebody, when you get caught in the middle of a storm. Manejé lentamente durante la tormenta. And what you're really trying to relate is, this happened to me. This is what I did in the middle of the storm. Okay. And what this person said, on the other hand, was just this. Manejada lentamente durante la tormenta. And the signal that you're sending is this ... But if that's all you say of manejada lentamente durante la tormenta, the person listening to you is thinking about this. And they're saying, and okay, if all you say is manejaba lentamente durante la tormenta, the person you're talking to is waiting for, and what else? Because they think, oh, you're just saying this was going on during this event. And now they're expecting you to tell, well, what happened while you were doing that?
They're painting the background picture.
I'm painting the background picture, but I'm giving you no meat in there of what happened. So
okay.
if all you say in your communication is manejaba lentamente durante la tormenta, you're kind of leaving that person hanging, and they're expecting to hear more. And when they don't get that, they're like, should I pause? Should I ask? Or do I just sit here and say nothing? Yeah. You say, manejé lentamente durante la tormenta. It's the comment you made at the water cooler to the guy at the office. He's like, hey, why'd you come late? Manejé lentamente durante la tormenta. Oh, he's just telling me what he did. And they expect that to be done and over with. And they're not really necessarily expecting any more out of that. Just, oh, this is what happened. It's kind of like anybody, I'm putting myself in the old person category, the old Dragnet TV detective show, Jack Webb has the policeman, he's got his little notebook, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, ma'am. That's preterito, just the facts, ma'am. And when they hear preterito, oh, that and that and that and that. Oh, okay, good, we're done. Yeah.
Now, question, in that example, the manahaba, as they were talking, if you could have, or the person saying it could say, I used to drive slow in the storms, but now I don't drive anymore. But if they were saying, now I don't drive anymore, then it would be the manahaba, because they're using the used to.
It could be a bunch of things.
Yeah.
It could be that, Juanita. It could be as simple as this as an alternative. Yeah, it could be a used to be. See?
Yeah.
Manejaba. But more likely it will be this. I'm going to show you what it's more likely to be. When they hear you say manejaba lentamente, and this is how you chose to phrase it instead of manejaba lentamente cuando justo, my fingers aren't right. Justo delante del carro cayó un árbol enorme. Cayó un árbol enorme. This is like more of what they think is going to happen when you start with manejaba lentamente. Justo delante del carro cayó un árbol enorme. I am telling you, this is what I was doing. I was doing this for a long time. All of a sudden, right in the middle of this, boom, boom, something happened. Okay.
Would an English translation be as I was driving?
See, I was just driving along. I was driving along when a tree fell over in front of me.
Yeah.
Así. Okay. Bien. Bien. Por ejemplo, manejaba lentamente cuando de repente vi las luces de un carro de policía.
Yeah.
I was driving along slowly when suddenly I saw some police cars, lights on a police car. Okay. Bien. So when you start off with manejaba at the water cooler, they're expecting something else to happen in the middle of this action of manejaba. When I just have manejé lentamente, you're just telling somebody why you got to work late. Because I did this, I drove slowly because there was too much water in the street, right? See? Eso. Bien. So with manejada, they're going to expect something else as filler to fill in the details. ¿Sí? Bárbara, ¿tienes pregunta?
Porque me confundo un poco de fue y era también, y escribí, era en septiembre cuando el novio y la novia se casaron. I don't know if that's right.
It was October when they got married.
Yes.
Fue.
Oh, fue. Okay. Fue porque es un punto en tiempo? Or?
Eso.
Okay. Fue.
Sí.
Porque,
because it's an event like, se casaron, they got married. And that takes all of 10, 15 minutes, depending on how long your ceremony, how long-winded your minister is, whatever. See? Bien? And it's an easily defined and confined activity. And you're just telling what time on the calendar that happens. So, pretérito es lo que esperaba. It's what somebody would expect. Yeah.
That, okay.
Preterito,
And then-
preterito. And these are very, and if you feel like, oh my goodness, this is tough. Well, yes, it is. That's why we're taking a look at it. I expect it to be. Yeah. And it's something, and you'll notice she kind of in the video said sheepishly, oh, how many times have you gotten this wrong? Because you do, because you need to just hear lots of examples and use it a lot to kind of get it set in your mind. Oh, okay, this is the way it makes sense. And there are just so many endless combinations we have that our minds frantically go through. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. So don't at any time ever feel bad about, gee, this is kind of tough. You just need to hear a lot of examples. Okay. The reason we had the second video was to show you the same story, really virtually the same story told in different time periods, right? Although in the way we talk with other people, we often weave those together. Yeah. We weave present in with past and with future all the time. Gee, I'm really tired now because I biked 15 miles in the morning, and boy, I've got to get a good night's sleep because I have to do yard work tomorrow. I will be working in the yard tomorrow. So I can be mixing all kinds of times when I have a normal conversation with somebody. Es frecuente. It's really common to have that kind of dilemma, and now, of course, your brain is racing through 3 different conjugation thingies, and you're like, oh my God, right? But just remember that futuro is the easy part, because all you really need to do is ir a infinitivo. You can get fancy schmancy and go into future, but most people are going to stay in ir a infinitivo, just that present use of ir, voy, vas, va, vamos, van, yeah, to talk about the future. Okay. Bien, sí? Okay. Excelente. Y voy a engrandecer aquí algo. Let's see if you've got any examples. Let's take a look first of our fue era, to say it was. And, the kind of little tongue-in-cheek comment that the gal had in her video was, all I want to say is was, and yeah, that's the problem. Okay. So, bueno, aquí tengo mi ejemplo. La reunión de ayer fue un desastre. The meeting yesterday was a disaster. El proyector para mi presentación no funcionó. The projector for my presentation did not work. Y nadie sabía arreglarlo. And nobody knew how to fix it. Después de la reunión, tenía que imprimir toda la información para enviarla al grupo. After the meeting, I had to print out all that crap to send it to the whole group. Sí, era molesto. Sí, perder tanto tiempo. And notice here,
Era.
I might say fue, but era molesto. Wow, it was a pain in the to have to do that. I'm really thinking descriptive mode, and the way they're going to read me is I was annoyed, and that's hanging on for me. That bad feeling of molesto, of being annoyed and bothered, it's hanging on with me. Era molesto, see? It was bothersome to lose so much time or waste so much time. And that's just a description. But if I want to say the meeting itself, because that's an event, better to say fue un desastre. Well, that was horrible. See? Okay. Hay un
Y
ejemplo.
molesto is a feeling too, también.
It
Somewhat.
is. It is. Now, this sentence here, it kind of a little bit ties into a little bit of what Federico had brought up of, am I sending a signal to somebody? Are they going to like backwards engineer it because of what I chose to say? And yes, they are. Would it be like flat out wrong for me to say fue molesto? No, not necessarily. But what I'm leaving as a last touch when I relate my annoyance is saying it was so bothersome. And era molesto, I am describing that I'm describing the impression it is still hanging over me from that
Okay. Mhm.
by choosing that.
Sure.
So they're going to reverse engineer that because of what I chose to say. Yeah. You know, fue un desastre is kind of like wiping my hands clean and saying, well, that's done and over, and that was a mess, and walking away from it. But this is kind of hanging out there as the bad taste in your mouth. See? Bien? So it wouldn't necessarily be wrong to say fue molesto. Okay? Wouldn't necessarily be wrong. It would be kind of odd to say el proyector funcionaba or no funcionaba. It was okay. I could say it was not working, but really, what I want to leave the impression with is it just wouldn't turn on. Yeah, no funcionó. It didn't work. But then notice what happens here. Saber, and this is why we struggle with this. Saber is a mental activity. Yeah. So saber is one of those words that really goes into one meaning if it's preterite, but a different kind of context if it's imperfecto. And the thing I want you to know is that nobody had the upstairs to know how to make this right. Okay. And nadie sabía arreglarlo tells me that nobody had the know-how, okay, to fix it. They didn't have the wherewithal. They didn't have the knowledge of knowing how to fix it, right? Saber in preterito makes it a finalized thing. So saber in preterito means somebody found out. It means it can only be a one-time thing. How do you do a one-time thing with a mental process? Well, with saber, it means found out, like first time. And that's not the idea I want to leave you with. I don't want to mean that nobody found out. I want to say nobody had the know-how. So it's got to be imperfecto because it's fuzzy and not concrete. See? Bien? Okay. Vale. Un ejemplo suyo. Anybody want to be brave and put out an example? And just be brave. Dare to make a mistake because it's the only way we can. Susana.
All right, I'll give it a shot here. El mes pasado, mi esposo y yo, con dos amigos, fuimos a Hawaii.
Evento.
La playa no era atestada. El agua era cálido y el clima era perfecto. Now, this next one, I'm not so sure about this. Fue la primera vez que mis amigas snorkeled, and at first I had buceaba, but probably should be buceo.
Ah,
It's the first time.
sí.
Le encantaba.
Okay.
Ah.
Fue la primera. Muy importante. The biggest important takeaway that
Mhm.
she got right was fue la primera vez. It was the first time.
Okay.
And you're definitely talking about something they did. And what they did means it was an event.
Yeah.
So, yes, fue la primera vez que
Mi amiga.
bucearon, that they snorkeled. Yeah. There are different verbs used for snorkel. Bucear is underwater.
Mhm.
Some do borrow the snorkel. Hicieron snorkel. You might hear people using that. See, fue la primera vez que bucearon, that they snorkeled or
So it
scuba
is
dived.
preterit.
Sí.
See, but then when I said and she loved it, it was le encantaba.
Mhm.
Maybe because it's a feeling, and
I would. Now on that one,
Mm.
let's think about it. Let's make a mental picture. Your friend came up with the great big floppy fins on it. You know how people walk out of the water when they got the big fins? Yeah.
like
Walked
Frankenstein.
out of the water with the great big fins and the goggles on it. And they're going to tell you how they felt about that, right? Because you're going to, hey, how'd it go? And they're going to say, I loved it. And what they're going to say is, me encantó.
Ah, okay.
Why? ¿Por qué? Why is that the natural thing, though? That is the natural thing to say. Y le encantó. She loved it. Le encantó. Why would
Mhm.
that be the more natural way to say that? Why? ¿Por qué? Why do you think?
It's done.
It's finito. Sí.
Done.
Mhm.
Done.
Just walked out of the water. And this is how I felt.
Okay.
This is the impression it made on me. And that was
Okay.
the first impression. Yeah.
Gracias.
Now, but it really conveys a different idea if you say, le encantaba bucear. Le encantaba bucear would mean she used to love snorkeling or scuba diving. And that would mean she did it more than
Once.
In fact, she did it,
Mhm.
don't know.
Nerviosos.
Yeah, muchas veces. Muchas veces. So the reaction with gustar to muchas veces is le encantaba.
Okay.
And the reaction to primera
The
vez
first
is
time,
le
single
encantó.
event, preterit.
Sí.
Okay.
Okay.
Gracias.
So that's why if you ask a little kid, ¿cuál era tu película favorita de niño? What was your favorite movie as a little kid? And how many times do your grandchildren watch the same cartoon movie? How many times do you have to sit through Little Mermaid, Aladdin, pick one, Harry Potter, over and over and over again? Yeah. Okay. So the reaction to that is, sí, me encantaba ver Aladdin. Me encantaba ver Aladdin, la película Aladdin, because they watched it more than once. But you ask your friend, your friend went to see Oppenheimer over the weekend, and ¿viste la película Oppenheimer? Sí, me encantó. Yeah, I loved it. Because they came out of the theater and that's their reaction. Okay? Me encantó. Me encantó is the reaction when you come right out of that experience. Yeah. But me encantaba is the reaction you get because a bunch of times. Yeah. Used to love it. See? Okay. Otro ejemplo. A mi esposo le encantaba la comida picante. A mi esposo le encantaba la comida picante, pero ahora porque tiene dificultades aquí con el sistema de digestión, ahora no le gusta, ya no le gusta, ¿sí? Comer comida muy, muy, muy picante. Bien? Okay, so used to versus right now. So you're looking at reaction that like first time versus used to like it because it happened a bunch of times. Make sense? See? Bien, bien. If you want to talk about the temperature of that water, though, Susana, probably el agua estaba caliente, ¿sí?
Caliente
O
versus
calurosa, sí, estaba, because it was at a certain temperature. And water is a very changeable thing. So it'll be estar. Yeah, and now we've got that nasty thing of ser versus estar, raising its ugly head as well. Yeah, right? But
That
you
could
did
be
some,
confusing too.
and that's
I agree.
confusing too,
I agree.
because
Yeah.
now I got ser estar and I've got fue, era, estaba, estuvo, oh, blankety, blankety, blank. Sí, yeah.
That's what happened to
Okay. Pero, está bien. It's good. Okay. And notice and celebrate the things you did right. Okay. Fue la primera vez is like the biggie. It was the first time. Yeah. That is perfect. Es perfecto. Okay. Bueno, hay alguien más, ¿sí? Anybody else want to be brave? Sí, Bárbara.
Ivan. Ella no sabía cómo arreglarlo, pero cuando supo que pueda usar otro herramienta, ella pueda arreglarlo.
Herramienta, pero cuando supo
Cuando
que,
supo,
que
is that like
tenía,
when she found out?
que tenía
Okay,
la
tenía.
herramienta correcta,
Herramienta correcta.
sí, found
Oh,
out that they had the right tool, sí, eso es, exacto. Yeah. So what I want you to come away with this is you're going to get a feel, and sometimes you're going to have the right feel, and sometimes you're going to stumble a little, but it's okay because you don't learn without some of the stumbling. Okay. We are no different than the grandkids or children that are learning to walk. You got to have stumbles or you just, never learn it. Okay. Bien. Hay otro ejemplo, another example anybody wants to share. Bueno, Kathy. Bien.
Antes de un hurricane, mi primo era feliz de tener una casa en la playa.
Ajá.
My cousin enjoyed his beach house.
Okay. Sí.
Should
And
it be estaba or era?
otra vez, toda la frase, the whole sentence again, ¿sí? Por favor.
Antes de un huracán, mi primo era feliz de tener una casa en la playa.
Okay. Estaba feliz. Estaba feliz. Because again, you're talking about his feelings. For how you feel or where you are, we always use the verb estar, ¿sí? Estaba feliz, sí, de tener, sí, antes del huracán, estaba muy feliz de tener una casa en la playa. He was happy before a hurricane having a place at the beach. Eso es, sí. Bien. Hay otro ejemplo.
Oh, I have one.
Okay, sí, Juanita.
Okay. Era una niña, mi papá y yo, I don't know, fuimos a Disneyland muchas veces. Por mi papá, Disneyland era el lugar más mágico del mundo. Nosotros pasábamos, no, am I saying right?
Pasábamos.
Pasábamos todo el día y nos cantábamos mucho.
Okay.
Mucho.
Okay.
But I debated between fuimos and éramos, because it's like, yeah, it's in the past, but it was a repeated action in the past.
Between fuimos and íbamos. And what was that little phrase you used after your verb? You had a timestamp.
Muchas veces.
Boom, 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 boom. Imperfecto, imperfecto.
Ah.
Ah. And there was your big, that's your big flashing light.
Okay.
Y ahora entiendes. Now you get that. See? Okay. So instead of fuimos in that particular little snippet, we want, instead of fuimos, íbamos.
Íbamos.
We used to go.
Okay.
Anytime, if I say muchas veces, es automática. It's totally automatic if I say muchas veces, because muchas veces says, I don't really know. If you know what, Juanita, if I told you, if you wanted to say we did this twice, it flips to fuimos. Fuimos dos veces. We went 2 times. Now I'm making it super definite.
Yeah.
Fuimos dos veces. Okay. Pero es otra cosa totalmente decir íbamos muchas veces. Muchas veces es, no sé, muchas veces. 10, 12, 5, no sé. Don't know, but just a lot, but not countable.
Okay.
Íbamos.
Íbamos.
Íbamos, but you know, la pasábamos muy bien. We had a good time. Sí, imperfecto, because that happened a lot, right? Cantábamos. We used to sing because it happened a bunch of times. Imperfecto, sí.
Okay.
Muy
Yeah,
bien.
it's describing the past. It's not an event.
Sí, sí. Yeah, it's not like, you know, we went there, we sang, we ate, we danced. And no, it's not like that. It's what we used to do over and over again. ¿Sí? Perfecto. Okay. Vale. Muy bien, bien hecho. Well done. Okay. Bueno, hay otro ejemplo con el pasado. Anything else about telling a little story, or maybe not telling a little story, but just even ideas that are not connected, because I told you that the ideas don't have to be connected, but they can be. Nada más? Bien. Federico, perdón.
Sí.
El verano pasado, Juanita y yo fuimos a Seattle para ver a nuestra amiga Lucene. Caminamos en Marketplace y el mercado de pescado. El día fue divertido. Then I wanted to say, you know, the restaurants were close, but very crowded. And that's when I fell into that Estan trap.
Okay, so let's stop there for a minute. And I'm losing my train of thought because I was thinking ahead to your next thing about things being full. Your last sentence before you stopped was?
Oh, my last sentence, el día fue divertido.
Perfecto. Muy bien. That is a perfect example of you're putting a period to your idea there. It was a perfect day, a great day, you know, boom, because that day is now over. So, fue un día perfecto, fue un día fantástico, fue un día estupendo, whatever description you want to tag on it. But it was a day that happened and now it's done. So that's great. Now, you want to talk about The stores were
The
full?
restaurants were close. In other words, they're close to the marketplace and the fish market.
We're close by.
Restaurants were close, but they were, crowded.
Okay. The restaurants were close. So let's give a little bit of help with this. The restaurants were close by and they were full. Am I describing, or did the restaurant happen?
Describe.
Okay, imperfecto. And I'm telling where that restaurant was. Was it near or was it far? It was
Here.
location near. Okay, it's a fuzzy where, but it's still a location thing, right? So, el restaurante.
Estaba.
I'm going to use estar and I'm going to go into description mode. El restaurante
Estaba.
estaba cerca, it was close by, or estaba lejos, it was far, whichever that happens to be, right? I could say estaba a 2 millas, it was 2 miles away. Any of those things talk about location. So estaba. Okay. If you're talking about location in the past, here's a little helpful clue. It can only be estaba. It can't be anything else. Porque, why? It's always a description. A location is always a description. It didn't happen. Yeah. The restaurant was always in that location. It didn't pick up and move at any time. If I'm talking about description in the past, it's always going to wind up being estaba. El restaurante estaba cerca y estaba lleno de gente. It was full of people, or había mucha gente en el restaurante. Había mucha gente. And you know what? When somebody says there were a lot of people, they're often going to do this while they're talking to you. Yeah. This is a thing in many, many countries where they say, ooh, lots of people here. Lots of people here. Not this. That ain't going to do it. This will. Yeah. See? Sí, había mucha gente. Wow, there were lots of people there. Or estaba llena de gente. Bien? Okay. Did we solve up? See, and you just had to tie together that last idea. No? Perfecto. Okay. Bien. I really like that you had the fue un día fantástico, or I can't remember your exact, but you kind of put a period on the end of that. That's great. Okay, magnífico. Bien. Hay otro ejemplo. Any other example? Anybody?
Voy
Sí.
a intentar.
Okay.
Intentar.
Okay, vale. Sí, bueno, Carlos. And then we'll take
María, una estadounidense, vivía en Chile durante los últimos 10 años. Ella estaba ahí por el negocio de las piedras preciosas. Pero después, 2 años, la empresa para la que trabajaba cerró. Debido a la alta inflación en el país. Pero María se ha quedado en Chile. ¿Por qué? Porque María y una amiga comenzaron sus propios negocios de piedras preciosas y fue un gran éxito.
Fue un gran éxito, sí. It was a big hit.
Vino a casa en los Estados Unidos.
Okay, bien. Vale, bien hecho, okay. Piedras preciosas is precious stones. So gems.
Yeah.
Okay. Things for
Gemstones.
making
Mhm.
jewelry or, lo que sea, whatever. Bien. Muy bien. Sí, fue un éxito. It was a success. Yeah. So now what you're talking about is the opening of that business. See,
And the closing of the
empezaron
other one.
los negocios. So they started a business of their own. Okay. And the punto, the period, the thing that you end with is it was a complete hit, right? Sí, fue un éxito. It was a success. Bien hecho. Now, por lo general, generally, when we want to say somebody was living in Chile or wherever they were living, sí, vivía en Chile. If I put a time marker on it, por 10 años, I may be more likely to say viví. But, if she still kept on living there even after that time mark, you might leave it at vivía. That's one of those things where you're kind of, again, like Federico said, with somebody kind of backwards engineer it. Yeah, if I'm using vivía, she used to live there, and well, she might still be. Yeah, see? Bien, okay. Bien hecho. Okay, Kathy, you had either a comment or a question or another example.
It's sort of all that.
Okay.
Hace muchos años el lago Mead fue muy profundo. Ahora tiene menos agua. I am wondering if Lake Mead should be fue or estaba.
Es buen ejemplo, Lake Mead. And okay.
The second part was now it has less water. So I don't know if that means estaba or fue.
Lake Mead. Sí. Wow. Okay. This is one of those things that could go in a couple of directions. If I say to somebody, this kind of goes back to what Federico mentioned. Is somebody going to assume something from what I choose? Lake Mead fue, now, normalmente, Lake Mead is a thing, right? So normally I'm going to use era. Lake Mead era muy profundo. El lago Mead era muy profundo. It was very deep. Era muy profundo. Okay. But if somebody knows I'm talking about climate change and I said something like, there are a couple of ways I could hedge this. I could say, era muy profundo, pero ahora no lo es. But now it's not. Maybe. But I might be sending kind of a message if I said, fue profundo y pero ahora las cosas se están cambiando por el cambio climático. Las cosas se están cambiando con la sequía. Things are changing with the drought. Y ahora no tiene tanta agua. Now it doesn't have so much water. Okay, so you might kind of be sending a signal, but because Lake Mead is a thing, you're really more likely to be in that era. See? Era, because you're describing a thing.
Okay. Gracias.
But, you could be kind of sending a message of that time is like over forever by using fue. Yeah.
I don't want to say that.
Kind of sending, yeah, we don't want to. No controlamos el clima, así que es un asunto muy difícil. Okay. Pero buen ejemplo, sí. Yeah, generally when I'm describing things in nature, we're going to go into that imperfecto mode. Okay. or, usually people, unless I put a time limit on it, and that is the point, then I could switch into pretérito. Bueno, hay otro ejemplo. Any other example that you want to share or ask about? ¿O no? ¿No? Bien. Ok. Bueno, a ver, voy a compartir. I'm going to put back on my share screen because we want to take a look at this second bit here. Let me try to make this a little bit bigger, un poquito más grande. Sí, mejor, better. See? Okay, we had a little story here. Our Argentine friend had a nice story of, telling the same basic kind of information, but using 3 different tenses. And, we have a tendency when we talk with people of doing this in English quite a lot. So, well, of course, they might do that in Spanish quite a lot too, of mixing their tenses. Yeah. This is kind of wide open of using anything at all, but maybe mixing some tenses up a little bit. So let's take a look at how I did that on my example. Queríamos viajar al norte para visitar los parques nacionales en Utah. We wanted. And now I'm just describing how we felt, and how we felt is generally that goes into description mode. It goes into imperfecto. Queríamos viajar al norte para visitar los parques nacionales en Utah. Even if it was last week, if it was what we wanted, a lot of those emotional verbs are going to tend to go into imperfecto because they describe your state of mind and feeling. See, normalmente pasamos algunos días en Moab. Normally we spend presente, a few days, algunos días, a few days, ¿sí? En Moab, pero no había ninguna habitación disponible. But there wasn't any hotel room available. Is a hotel room an event?
No.
It just was there. So I need había. Yeah. There was no room. Yeah. And the room doesn't happen. So it's got to be había, right? I'm just describing the situation of no reservations out there. Okay. Es aún más difícil reservar un cuarto en Zion. It's even more difficult to reserve a room at Zion. See? Porque es un destino muy popular. So I went from what we wanted to how things really are right now. And now I'm going to flip back to the past. Decidí, I decided, because mentally I went, here's what I'm going to do. Okay. And decidí is not like no sabía, I didn't know, which is vague and fuzzy. But when I make a decision, it happens and then it's done. Decidí que podía buscar un hotel cerca de Capitol Reef. I decided that I could look for a hotel near Capitol Reef, porque hay menos turistas allá, because there are fewer tourists there. Okay, so that's a mix of present and past. Are there any little ideas you can come up with mixing some of these? Because this is what we normally do a lot in our speech. Or maybe even mixing in a little future, but you're only using the present tense of ir to use future. So, it's not a big leap. ¿Hay un ejemplo o no? That's kind of a tough one. Okay, Kathy, sí.
You want a story? Okay. El miércoles pasado, yo tuve un accidente en mi carro. Cuando giré a la izquierda, turning left, mi auto chocó contra la mediana y dañó una rueda. I damaged a wheel making a left turn because I bumped the
Mhm.
median. Una grúa llevó mi carro a una taller de reparación. A tow truck took my car to a repair shop.
And you know what? You could only you could shorten that a lot by just saying el taller. If you just call that el taller without reparar or reparaciones,
Oh,
everybody
Oh.
knows. It's like us saying, I'm taking it to the shop.
okay.
Everybody knows you're going to the mechanic.
Mm.
When you say I'm going to the shop, I got to take my car to the shop. Everybody knows where you're going, right?
Not the grocery store.
El taller, and that's all you need. El taller. See? Llevó mi carro al taller. It took my car to the shop.
Now I have more to the story that goes to the future.
Okay.
Ahora no tengo un carro para
Ah.
conducir.
Ah.
No puedo ir a Albertsons para comprar comida.
Eso. Sí. ¿Qué problema? ¿Qué gran problema?
Mi hija es muy ocupada. She works many hours. Pero espero que ella encuentre tiempo para llevarme a la tienda.
Okay, sí.
I
Y
hope she'll
ella
find time.
está muy ocupada. Ella está muy ocupada, ¿verdad? Sí. Ella está muy ocupada. She is very busy. She's in that state of mind, or yeah, she's in that place. Sí, eso, okay. And one thing I really liked about what you did, Kathy, tuve un accidente. I had an accident. Normally, when you say I had something, in most cases, it's tenía, sí? Tenía, no tenía mi cartera. I didn't have my wallet. Tenía mi tarjeta para pagar. I had my card to pay. But in this case, you had an accident. And what's an accident? It's an event. So tuve un accidente really works there because
good.
it wasn't what you had in your pocket or your purse or the back seat of your car. It's something that happened. So, evento. Muy bien. Okay. Super, super great takeaway. Tuve un accidente. I had an accident. Eso es. Sí. We use that for events. Bien hecho. Well done there. Okay. Bien. ¿Hay otra idea o no? Okay, Susana.
Yeah, mine's really simple, but trying to use past,
Perfecto.
present, and future. Okay. Los sábados, por lo general, ceno en un restaurante. El mes pasado, comí al restaurante italiano, restaurante mexicano y restaurante chino. El próximo sábado voy a comer en el restaurante francés cerca de mi casa. Me disfruta probar diferentes tipos de cocina.
Okay, bien, bien. Y bueno, sí, simple, pero bien hecha. Okay. It doesn't have to be super fancy to be well done. Eso es, sí.
I did have a
Fantástico.
question.
Okay.
You know, I use voy a comer because we haven't really talked about future tense, but could you have said, would it be ire?
Oh.
I-R-A?
I don't think anybody would phrase it that way. I
Okay.
will go to ire. You could say ire. You could. Okay, here's where ire, the
Mhm.
true future, might
Mhm.
work. Iré al algún restaurante totalmente diferente. I'll probably go to some totally different
Mm.
place. Okay. And you're not being very definite. But,
Mhm.
you know, if you know you're going someplace, it's always going to be voy a ir, or voy a comer. Yeah?
Okay.
Voy a,
Okay.
voy a.
Gracias.
You know, ire puts it like way out there, distantly, and it makes it a little more indefinite.
Okay.
You know,
voy a plus infinitive is something in the near future. Like very
yeah,
near future.
eso, sí, yeah, something, yeah, and it puts it in the closer future,
Right.
and also it's a little more definite. Well, this
Definite.
will happen.
Okay.
This will happen. Yeah.
Yes.
It's saying, I'm pretty sure about this. Okay. Bien.
A question.
Sí,
Could
sí.
you, would you say vamos al cine este fin de semana, or
Vamos.
would you say iremos al fin? Iremos al cine.
Vamos a ir. Vamos al cine. Vamos al cine. Sí, vamos al cine. Sí,
Okay.
vamos al cine. You know, many times, plain old vanilla flavor present tense can be interpreted as future. So, vamos a ir al cine. We're going to go to the movies. But, you know, very often it may just be vamos al cine. We're going to go to the movies.
Okay.
Good enough. See? ¿Por qué no comemos la comida china esta noche? Why don't we eat Chinese food? See, you know, we're going to probably eat that. A lot of times, even plain old presente in a really simple form, when you know you're talking about what you're probably going to do, can be interpreted as a very, very near future, very close by. Okay, very soon kind of future. Eso es. Okay, bien. Bueno, okay. Algo más? Anything else? If not, I'm going to kind of tie up with a little listening shorty. I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing. We might not, and if we don't, I'll leave you the link for watching the rest of it later. This is a nice little listening drill, and it's short. So you're going to hear a short bit of an event and then some questions about that event right away. So not a 15-minute thing and then a bunch of questions. This will be like a minute of talking and then, ooh, what did I just talk about? Okay? And you might hear some tenses mixed. Okay? Bien? So, we're going to do and this is, you know, spur the moment, and it really puts everybody in the hot seat. Yay! But thankfully, these are all like super short. So we'll see how much you can get. And this is going to be an illustration of, can you mentally kind of get an idea of her using some different tenses and talking about very different situations, all very isolated, not one long continuous story. And are you getting the big picture from what you are listening to? Not analyzing every single word, but getting the big idea. Okay? Vale bien. And I think I'm going to go jump straight into it. Scenario uno, scenario one. And it's going to be an easy one for the first one. Let me back up a little bit because I think I caught her in the middle. Okay.
There's no sound.
There's no sound.
Oh, perdón.
There's also the English translation.
There is the English translation. So
Okay.
here's what I want to tell you. I want you to focus on listening and not, don't try to read the Spanish and the English, because that is not going to happen. Your brain will not be able to process it. I can't even read it that fast in 2 languages. Come on. Okay. So I just want you to listen to the Spanish. Ignore the English. If I could take that off the screen, I would. Now, the beauty is you can go back and listen to it a second time. But listen just to the Spanish. Just listen to the ideas. Don't try to translate. Okay, I did not have the sound turned on, so I was really a bad girl there. Okay, empezamos.
Juan, hola, soy Andrea y estoy haciendo un viaje por Latinoamérica. Empecé por Colombia y ahora mismo estoy en Perú. Llevo unos 10 días aquí y todo ha sido increíble. Me encanta la variedad de climas que se pueden encontrar. He conocido Machu Picchu, Cusco y el lago Titicaca. También otros lugares. Desafortunadamente no me alcanzó el tiempo para ver la montaña de 7 colores. Ahora mismo estoy esperando el avión para ir a mi siguiente destino, Argentina.
Bien. Okay, so the big idea, it's a video about what topic?
Traveling.
Traveling.
Yeah.
And she tells you where she went
Colombia.
and how long she's been there and stuff she did and where she's going next. Okay, so those are the big ideas. Let's see if you can answer the questions.
1. ¿Dónde está Andrea ahora mismo?
Right now, ahora mismo.
A. En
Multiple
Colombia.
choice.
B. En Perú.
Sí.
C. En Argentina.
Peru.
Ah, ¿cuál es?
Peru. Peru.
Okay, we're just going to the basic information here, right? The big picture stuff.
She's going to Argentina.
La respuesta correcta es B. En Perú.
Okay.
2. ¿Qué lugar le faltó a Andrea por conocer?
Le faltó, meaning something that she didn't manage to get done. Le faltó is something that is missing. Like didn't make the list. Okay. See? Por conocer, conocer here doesn't mean to know a person, but to get familiar with a place. So what place didn't she manage to visit?
A. El lago Titicaca. B. Machu Picchu. C. La montaña de 7 colores.
La Montana.
Montañas.
La Montana de 7 colores.
Sí, sad.
Say.
La respuesta es C. La montaña de 7 colores.
Okay, so, even when you're not translating word for word, you heard, no alcancé visitar. I didn't manage to get to this place. That's the big picture, right? You don't need to translate every word you don't need to translate every word to get the big picture idea. Okay, scenario 2. Totally
Ayer
unrelated.
Me levanté a las 7 de la mañana.
Me levanté a las 7 de la mañana.
Lo primero que hice fue estirar y hacer un poco de ejercicio. Luego desayuné, después me fui al trabajo. El bus que tomo normalmente para ir al trabajo no estaba en servicio.
Here's something I want you to notice. See? Because she had a lot of events, and then el bus que tomo normalmente para ir al trabajo no estaba en servicio. Okay, she's describing the state it was in there. So it's no estaba en servicio.
Así que tuve que tomar un taxi. Llegué a tiempo para mi reunión y fue un día bastante productivo.
And notice that fue un día bastante productivo. Bien, okay.
Pues, 1. ¿Qué fue lo primero que el narrador hizo? A. Estirar y hacer ejercicio. B. Desayunar. C. Ir al trabajo.
First thing the person did.
Hacer ejercicios.
Sí. Estirar y hacer.
La respuesta es A. Estirar y hacer ejercicio. 2. ¿Cómo fue el narrador al trabajo? A. Caminando. B. En bus. C. En taxi.
En taxi.
Autobús.
En bus.
Taxi. En taxi.
En taxi.
Sí, este día.
Taxi.
La respuesta
Posterior.
correcta es C. En taxi.
And notice in the story, it was normalmente voy en
Oh, sí, sí,
autobús.
sí.
Ah, bien. See,
Ah.
so we have a little time tag on that. Normalmente voy en taxi, pero el autobús no estaba en servicio. That route wasn't in service, wasn't running. You know, we often say it wasn't running and the bus doesn't run. Yeah, but you know what I mean in English when I say it wasn't running. Okay, wasn't in service. Bien.
Scenario 3.
Oh, bien. Okay. So, what I want you to do over the week is listen to those again and notice those examples of shifts. And it won't all be in preterito, or it won't all be in imperfecto. There are flips between all these scenarios, between what happens right now, what normally happens, which is still presente, versus what happened, definite events or definite descriptions. And the way we get used to these is to listen to different scenarios and what a native speaker would normally use to phrase these ideas. So these always gives you an idea. And notice when he talked about, the day when couldn't use the bus, had to grab a taxi, got to work. And what does he put an end to his day on? But fue un día productivo. It was a productive day, which is describing the whole day and the close of the day. So preterito. So it ties up with an example of fue with an event. Bien.
Hoy tengo un día muy ocupado de vueltas por hacer, porque en la noche tengo un matrimonio. Primero tengo que ir al banco, después a la peluquería, arreglarme las uñas y el cabello. Quería arreglarme las cejas también, pero no me alcanza el tiempo. Después de la peluquería, debo ir a comprar un regalo para los novios y en la noche debo vestirme para ir. ¡Qué día tan ocupado por dejar todo para último momento! 1. ¿Qué va a hacer la narradora en la peluquería? A. Arreglarse las uñas y el pelo. B. Arreglarse las uñas y las cejas. C. Arreglarse el pelo y las cejas.
Difícil. That's a tough one.
Okay.
La respuesta es A. Arreglarse las uñas y el pelo. 2. ¿A dónde va la narradora en la noche? A. A una fiesta. B. A un concierto. C. A un matrimonio.
And
Sí.
matrimonio is boda, but either
Sí,
word can
yeah.
be.
Sí.
La respuesta es C. A un matrimonio. Scenario 4.
Okay, so now you see these are all little short snippets, but it's worth it listening to them again to catch those little turns of phrase that you maybe missed the first time, because this is all going fast, but you're getting the big idea, yeah? And all we're looking at is, do you get the big idea and get whether it's like right now or back in the past? That's all you really need to pick out. So we're going to do one more before we close class, but there's more to listen to after this, so you'll
4.
tie up the end
Después de
later.
mucho tiempo, ayer compré libros nuevos para leer. Compré 2 de ciencia ficción y 1 de historia. Estoy bastante emocionada por leerlos. Tenía 2 opciones donde abrir el primer libro. Un parque que queda cerca de la librería, que es muy bonito, o una cafetería que queda un poco más lejos. Pero me gusta porque ponen música clásica y el café es delicioso. Al final decidí ir a la cafetería para el primer libro. Por la música que estaban poniendo en la cafetería, decidí empezar por uno de los libros de ciencia ficción. Juez 1. ¿Cuántos libros compró la narradora? A. 3. B. 2. C. 4.
¿Cuántos libros compró?
Sí. Sí.
La respuesta correcta es A. 3. Dos.
He named two genres, history book, and then two that were sci-fi. ¿Sí? Bien. Okay.
¿Dónde decidió leer el primer libro? A, en la biblioteca. B, en el parque. C, en una cafetería.
Where did she decide to read that first book? Peel it open.
Cafeteria.
La respuesta correcta es C, en una cafetería. 3. ¿Por qué decidió leer en la cafetería? A, porque está cerca de su casa. B, porque ponen música de ciencia ficción. C, porque ponen música clásica y hacen buen café.
Ah.
Sí.
La respuesta correcta es C, porque ponen música clásica y hacen buen café.
And that was a good example, that scenario again, of she split it and she talked, we're using some past ideas and some present tense ideas. So it was a big mix. So you've got a little less than half the amount of time we spent tonight to listen to a few new stories, but I like these because they are short. Yeah. And they force you to really think big picture because she gives you multiple choice. Yeah. You don't have to get into details because she gives you options to choose from. But, and it doesn't force you to conjugate. You're just picking the big ideas out of each little short scenario. See? Okay? So we'll leave you with that to finish up. And take a few little notes because there are a few little verbs in there that are, I'm not going to say odd because they're not at all odd, are not maybe verbs that you will always hear in a standard textbook setting, but are very natural for Spanish speakers. So just take a couple little notes of a couple little words, and they're probably going to be verb type words probably in there that she uses where you say, this verb is kind of unusual. What does this mean? See if you can figure out or come to class and ask about it, which you may need to do. Bien. Vale. For next week, we'll have besides that, which is really just a listening exercise, we'll have another video, which will be more of a storytelling mode. And then, some ideas. I'll send you some conversation ideas that build off of the storytelling video, not the listening comprehension. Okay? And so, again, you may need to mix some present and past in the conversation prompts you get based on the storytelling video. ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Sí.
Muy bien.
Vale.
Excelente.
Muchas gracias.
Excelente. Sí. De nada, de nada. And next week, just like we had things with fue or era, we're going to talk a little bit about some verbs that in the past you can kind of make a quick decision about. Is it going to generally, most of the time, be an imperfecto or a preterito? Because certain verbs do lean a little bit one way or another when you're in conversation mode, and how to know which ones do that and which one to choose. See? Okay? Lo normal, the normal thing. What will be the normal response? And of course, those are never going to be rules that are 100%. Well, I'm not going to say, I can never say never, never say never. But, there will be certain verbs that will tend to be used more in one past tense type than the other. And how you can kind of tell. ¿Sí? ¿Bien?
Sí.
Yeah.
Gracias.
Perfecto. Muy bien. Entonces, sí, eso es todo para hoy.